Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are looking at a deck tech for Bria Riptide Rogue. Bria is a 4-mana 3/3 legendary otter rogue. It has prowess, all of our other creatures get prowess, and then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature you control can't be blocked. So the idea is whenever we cast a spell, all of our creatures get +1/+1 and one of them can't be blocked. So we're going to cast a lot. This is Izzet, Unblockable Spellslinging. So why play Bria? Prowess stacks, so cards with multiple instances of prowess are going to get +1/+1 for each instance it has. So let's say, for example, we already have a creature that has prowess on it. Bria gives it prowess, so we cast an instant or sorcery, or really a non-creature spell. That creature now gets +2/+2 and can't be blocked. It's a unique Spellslinging deck, since a lot of Spellsling decks kind of rely on silly combos or just kind of burning people out, which is all fine and dandy, but this is a nice way to get through by having unblockable guys that just get huge, right? Our board gets bigger because we just play the game and passively as we go on. Our board gets bigger and bigger, and then we just have a huge capacity to kill people later on because we are just a Spellslinger deck that now has unblockable guys. Here's the game plan. We need Bria. I built this deck with too much reliant on the unblockable ability. The prowess ability is nice, but just having the whole team be unblockable is kind of huge, right? So early game, we just want to play Bria. We're not 4-color. Bria. You're gonna hear me make that mistake all the time. We just want to play a bunch of value, little token generators, so we can start getting our engines going. So when we do decide to combo off, we go nuts. Mid game, play Bria, start casting non-creatures. Late game, we storm off with her, mark our entire board unblockable and big enough to just honestly try to wipe out the entire pot at once. It's pretty doable. Here are the vulnerabilities. Bria not being here, right? We need Bria. I can't emphasize this enough that the deck does rely on Bria. There is a lot of stuff in the deck to make sure Bria lives. Some counters, some protection. We need Bria. The other kind of cards are once per turn spells, like stacks pieces, like Deafening Silence, right? Each player can cast more than one non-creature each turn. And then the other vulnerability is Fizzling, right? Brink of Madness isn't a card that's going to be played against you, but your face is going to look like his when you find out that you're comboing off, but you don't just have enough because you didn't draw into an answer, or you drew into too many lands, or you're 1 mana short. We're going to be looking like that guy in the picture when if we fizzle. So here's a spicy tech I added with the deck, right? Which really made me like it, is having multiple copies of Bria. So we do this by having Spark Double, which enters the battlefield as a copy of Bria and gives it a 1/1 counter. And then Irenicus is a Vile Duplication, right? Which again, the idea of why I like this is because now our creatures have double prowess. And whenever we cast a non-creature spell, 2 creatures can't be blocked. Or so the idea, the big cool idea is all of our guys on the battlefield, assuming we get all these 3 on the field, is whenever we cast a non-creature spell, all of our creatures get +3/+3, and 3 creatures can't be blocked this turn, which is most likely our entire board. I just really like the idea of it. I think it's cool. Before we go into it, the deck's like 330 bucks at the making of this video. And if you want, get the cards you need down from TCG Player from the link below. Remember to comment, subscribe, and give the video a like. It really helps out. Going into it, the only Planeswalker we have is Saheeli, the Sublime Artificer. Just because whenever we cast a non-creature spell, you make a 1/1 guy. Ignore the bottom effect. The bottom effect doesn't matter. It's just whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we make a 1/1 servo with prowess, which then gets bigger and bigger and bigger as we cast more non-creature spells. Going into the bulk of the creatures, we have Archmage Emeritus. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, draw a card. We are a non-creature spell deck, but Spellslinging really happens just for our intents and purposes with instants and sorceries. There are artifacts and enchantments and whatever, but instants and sorceries are really how we pop off. Balmor, Battle Mage Captain, is a 2-mana 1/3 with flying. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, creatures you control get +1/+0 in-game trample until end of turn. A lot of this stuff, again, so keep in mind every card you see here already has prowess just because Bria is on the field, right? So Balmor's nice because whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, all of our guys get +2/+1 and trample. So that's really cool. Goblin Electromancer, just because, again, instants on sorceries, we need cost reducers so we can continue to pop off. Burgi, God of the Storytelling, whenever we cast a spell, add a red. We don't lose this as our turn goes through, so we can kind of go nuts on our main phase and still be able to do stuff during combat, and the mana goes through, you know. Creatures you control can burst twice, ignore that. That's not even printed on the card. I didn't at first want to include the backside of Harnfell, because I don't think it's very relevant. However, Harnfell is nice because the more I thought about it, the more likely that it prevents us from fizzling, right? If it's late game and we don't need Burgi to have the mana, if we already have mana under control, Harnfell's nice because we can start exiling lands or things we don't want to cast from our hands to effectively exile the top two, which is basically drawing two, which is good. Gutter Snipe, so whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. We do that a lot. Kiln Fiend is a notorious card from back in the day. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, he gets +3/+0 until end of turn. The idea with him is we want him to be unblockable whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, or really a non-creature spell. Well, let's just focus on instant and sorcery for him. He's going to get +4/+1 and unblockable until end of turn. This guy can get like absolutely bonkers, like so big, so quick, it's scary. Manaform Hellkite, 4 mana 4/4 with flying. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, make an XX red dragon creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that, and then get rid of it at the end step. This is nice just because when we cast an instant or sorcery, on top of making our guys unblockable, but this also gets us an XX dragon with haste, with prowess, that can also get bigger and bigger. That's kind of the idea of the deck, and same thing with Murmuring Mystic while I'm at it, because he's whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, make a 1/1 blue bird with flying. The idea is I like the idea of making a lot of tokens, because then they now have prowess. So whenever we're casting like non-creature spells, we're getting creature tokens from Manaform and Murmuring Mystic and all that then have prowess that get bigger and bigger, which is really cool. Niv-Mizzet Parent, he's hard to cast, but in our colors we'll be fine. Can't be countered. Whenever you draw a card, deals 1 damage to any target. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery, we draw a card, which is nice because we draw a lot of cards, and we cast a lot of instants and sorceries, so we can start pinging down our opponents with extra damage. We can kill their little guys, we can hurt their planeswalkers, we can do all this cool stuff with them. And it's whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery, not just us. So if someone tries to kill him, like that's the nice thing about Niv-Mizzet, is even if someone has a kill spell for him, we still draw a card off of it and deal damage, which is cool. Ojer Patik, I can't pronounce that. Deepest Epoch. 4 mana, flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand, it gains Rebound, which rebounds exile it as it resolves, and then we play it for free on our upkeep, and then we exile it. Sorry, then it goes to the grave. Blah. Which is really cool. No, then we exile it. No, it stays exiled. We're just copying it. I don't know instants and sorceries, guys. And then when it dies, we transform it tapped under, as the Temple of Cyclical Time. We tap it for a blue, remove a time counter from it. And then when we use all 3 time counters, we can rip it back into Ojer. So the idea with this is just we can double up our instants and sorcery spells on our next turn, which is cool. Ovika Enigma Goliath. Ovika is really cool if we can get it down. She basically wins us the game when we can play it. It's a 7 mana 6/6 with flying, ward 3, and pay 3 life. That basically says hexproof. Who's gonna do that? Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, make X 1/1 red Phyrexian Goblin creature tokens, where X is the mana value of that spell. They gain haste, and they have prowess. So again, we can kind of flood out our board really easily. Sprite Dragon is just a 1/1 flying haste, because whenever we cast a non-creature, we put a 1/1 counter on it, and it has prowess, so we get a 1/1 counter and +1/+1 till end of turn, and then it can't be blocked, so it kind of gets pretty big pretty quick. I like the idea of having a couple non-token creature versions of these, because even if we have Bria somehow not on the field, it's still a good win con, and it's a faster clock than you'd anticipate. Stormkiln Artist is a huge deal. 4 mana 2/2. He gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, so he has his own version of prowess, and he also has prowess from Bria anyways. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, make a treasure. So here's the big deal with Magecraft, is we have a decent amount of storm effects in the deck and copying spells. Magecraft triggers copying instants and sorceries. Prowess does not. Prowess does not copy like spells like that. That's important to know because that's a big deal. But Stormkiln Artist is nice because he helps us not fizzle. He always gives us a mana. He effectively makes all of our spells cost 1 less just because he's there. So it was very nice, and he gets us going. Talrand, whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, make a 2/2 flying creature token with prowess as well. Third Path of the Ironclast, again, whenever you cast a non-creature, make a 1/1 with prowess. Veyrin, Voice of Duality. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then, if you casting or copying an instant or sorcery spell causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So, if we cast an instant or sorcery as our non-creature, it's now going to trigger prowess twice for all of our guys, which is cool. Urbrask, he's a 4-mana 4/4 with first strike. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it deals 1 damage to target opponent, and then we add a red. And then if we cast 3 or more instants and sorceries, we can pay red to exile them, flip them over to the Great Work, which deals right away 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Then we'll make 3 treasures next turn, and then after that, until end of turn, you may cast instants and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way will be put into a graveyard, exile instead, and then we exile the Great Works and return it to the battlefield back as Urbrask. So, even if we don't flip it, Urbrask is just good, right? Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, deals 1 damage to target opponent, and we just add a red, effectively making our instants and sorceries cost 1 less because we always net a mana. And then eventually, we really have no reason to not do the thing, just because it's going to do a pseudo board wipe to our opponent, and kill all most of their creatures, and also just them. So be smart with how you do it. If you're going against an Eldrazi deck, you probably don't want to deal 3 damage to their creatures because it's not going to matter. The treasure is nice, and then again, if we flip him and we can cast instants and sorceries from any graveyard, and then he comes back as himself, that we don't win the game before that happens. I'd be shocked, but definitely when that happens, we win the game. And then we have Young Peasy that says whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, make a 1/1 red elemental creature token, and it's going to get prowess. Going into sorceries, we have Crash Through. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. Draw a card. Now you're probably wondering, this card sucks. Why do you even have that? It's like a weird effect. It doesn't do anything. It's really just for cards like Stormkiln Artist. It's for cards like Urbrask and all of those other ones that make it free. It's going to trigger our prowess. And it replaces itself, which is really good. And having our creatures be trampled, even the ones that aren't unblockable, is still really good. Empty the Warrens is a 4-mana. Create 2 1/1 red goblins. They're going to have prowess, and the spell has storm. So when you cast a spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. So we're going to make a lot of goblins off this. Ideally, this is kind of played in a way where we can just kind of make our board big and scary for no real good reason. You know, this is assuming we can go nuts on a turn, or it's good insurance. If we go nuts on a turn with Bria, and then we somehow don't kill someone, if someone like, whatever, like Cyclonic riffs us as we're in combat or whatever, we can always empty the Warrens afterwards. And even if we don't, even if we just do it like turn like 3 or 4, just making a lot of guys with prowess is still really good. Expressive Iteration is crazy good. 2 mana, look the top 3 cards of your deck. Put 1 in your hand, 1 into exile, and then 1 on the bottom. And you can play the exile card this turn, so I'm sure those of you have seen it in Standard and Modern and literally every format it's played in because it's so good. You usually just exile a land, you play that land for turn, whatever the worst of the 3 are, you tuck on the bottom of the deck, and then you effectively just draw a card, which is cool. Faithless Looting, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, and then it has flashback. This kind of card is good just because it prevents us from fizzling, because that's my biggest fear with this deck, is we go too nuts, and then we ultimately go too big, too hard, and then we miss out, right? So doing an early game is nice if we need to fix our hand, draw something to get us going, or later game it's nice we can flash it back for 3. Gitaxian Probe is good. It's a free spell. We're just going to pay 2 life on it. Look at target player's hand. It doesn't matter what they have. We're just going to do it to draw a card, and it's a non-creature, so it's going to trigger prowess on all of our cards. So again, it replaces itself for 2 life, which is basically free. Grape Shot is honestly a way we can just kill someone, because even if the Bria idea doesn't work, we can still cast like a ton of spells. Like we can kind of go nuts with these spells. So that's pretty good. Even just dealing 1 damage to any target, even if we don't go full infinite with it, just shooting down people to take a lot of damage is still really good. Haze of Rage, 2 mana, has buyback. I didn't even know this card existed, honestly. Buyback, which, you know, you just pay 2 mana as you cast it, so it's really a 4 mana spell and you put it back in your hand. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn, and it has Storm, which can make all of our guys really big. Though Storm does not trigger prowess, it's still basically, we don't care if our creatures get bigger toughness. We just don't. We really only care about them getting more power. So that can make our guys like absolutely huge, and then we can just recast it over and over and over again, which is great. Jessica's Will, the idea is we always have Bria, so 3 mana to do both. Add a red for each card in target opponent's hand, and exile the top 3 cards of our library we can play them this turn. So really, like, way Jessica's Will is red is draw 3 cards and get like probably around 5 mana, right? That's probably a good average. So you always net, it's a ritual, you always net 2 mana or so on it. Mana Geyser is add red for each tapped land your opponents control. Now, most likely, our opponents are doing stuff. And if we're casting this on turn 5, right, assuming Bria's on the field and we have enough guys to get going, this is going to be a lot. I imagine we're probably paying 5 to probably get about maybe, like, let's say 5 mana on average per person if they're playing the game. I don't know, 15 mana, net 10 red, or even less than that's fine. Anything above 5 mana is good, because it's net positive at that point, and that's all we care for. Mizzet's Mastery, 4 mana. You guys know this card. Crazy card from 2015. Exile target card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, and you may cast the copied card, you know, without paying its mana cost, and then you exiled Mizzet's Mastery. And then it has Overload for 8. So really, the way we're casting this is exile each instant and sorcery from our graveyard and copy it, which goes nuts. It doesn't necessarily trigger prowess, but it's going to trigger all of our Magecraft stuff, and it's going to still make all of our guys really big because we have cards, you know, like Haze of Rage and like all of our rituals to get more mana. Past in Flames, for each instant sorcery in your graveyard, that card gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost, and it has flashback itself. So we can just cast it. We double up all of our instants and sorceries. We don't really have too much value in getting them back from the grave later with like Archaeomancer effects or anything like that, so I'm not really worried about that. Ponder, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order. You may shuffle and then draw a card. We're not doing anything funny with fetch lands or anything. It's really just a 1 mana redraw. It's a cantrip, right? Idea is we have Stormkiln Artist on the field or whatever. It's basically a free spell. Preordain, scry 2, then draw a card. This is good at really any point in the game, right? Because it's 1 mana, it's a cantrip, it replaces itself, and scrying 2 is good. Even if we do this without Bria, like just early game, this is a very good turn 1 preordain. Like a turn 1 preordain's great. Scry 2, then draw a card, it gets you set up for your next couple turns. It's great. Solve the equation, search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, and then put it into your hand. It's just short, sweet, and to the point. I don't know what card I would say you would tutor for, just because everything is situational. If you need a counterspell, you need a counterspell. If you know you need combat tricks, if you're ready to win the game. If you need more mana, you get a ritual. Really, any number of things you can do with Solve the Equation. It's just a tutor. Windfall is each player discards their hand, then draws a number of cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. So whoever has the most cards, everyone counts up their hand. Whoever has the highest, draw that many cards. You discard your hand and then draw that many cards. The idea is we cast this when we have like no cards in hand, or we desperately need more things to work with. It can benefit our opponents. However, we're really doing it just because the idea is we win in a turn anyway, right? Like we win in one fell swoop with everyone. Arcane Denial, just 2 mana, counter target spell. If that spell's caster may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of your next, you know, that's pretty much it. So you counter target spell, at the next upkeep, you draw 1 card, and whoever you countered, they draw 2 cards. It replaces itself, it's protection, it's good. Battle Hymn, add 1 red for each creature you control. Now, I like this card because it kind of goes nuts, and also it resolves after all of our token effects, right? So we have cards like, we have like Ovika, and we have Talrand, and we have every other card that says whenever you cast instant and sorcery, make a token dude. They all trigger before this resolves, so we get a lot more mana than you would anticipate off this, which is good. Big score, as an additional cost, discard a card, who cares, draw 2 cards, and then create 2 treasures, which is great, because effectively, this spell now costs 2. It's basically big Faithless Looting, but when we have cost reducers, and not Faithless Looting, Thrill of Possibility, that also makes you treasure. Yeah, no, it's basically big Thrill of Possibility that gives bigger upside. It's good. It's good. It's a big score. Brainstorm. At instance, draw 3 cards, put the top card of your hand on the top of your deck in any order. Again, it's just good to draw 3 cards. It's good setting up. If we need something to get rid of, or like a particular order that would be better, that's still good, but it just gives us more options to work with. Counterspell is a counterspell, get rid of something we don't like. Cyclonic Rift, I mean, we're a Spellslinging deck. All of our guys are already unblockable, so you don't necessarily need this card, but it's really good to deal with problematic things, and just paying 7 mana that is cost reduced, that is going to get all of our prowess triggers, and it's also going to wipe all of our opponent's boards, is real good. Even if we don't have Bria, we fizzle or whatever, it's a good insurance card. We can also demand answers. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact, or discard a card. It's really just Thrill of Possibilities, but giving us the option to sacrifice an artifact, which I don't know if we actually make artifact, guys, but either way, it just gives us more options. Draw 2 cards, it's fine. Frantic Search is just a free spell. Draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards, untap 3 lands, it costs 3. So again, we just draw 2, discard 2, and untap 3. It's a free spell practically. All of our prowess guys trigger, we make a token on it. Lightning Bolt, it's just great removal. And again, I just want to remind, every card we cast, every non-creature card we cast, we get tokens on and as a prowess trigger. So that's important. Maybe not necessarily always make tokens, but it's always a prowess trigger because we always plan on having Bria on the field. Mystical Tutor to really get what we need. Search our deck for an instant and sorcery, put it on top, whatever we need. If we need any kind of interaction, any kind of win the game, removal, whatever, we have it. Negate, counter target non-creature spell. That's most spells, right? Opt, it's just a replacement card. It's an instant, scry 1, draw a card. It replaces itself. Again, we have like cards like Stormkilled Artist or whatever that it's going to give us the mana and we'll funnel through, right? Replaces itself. We get all our non-creature cast triggers. We continue. The final 2 instants, we have Prismari Command, deals 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards and discards 2 cards. Target player makes a treasure and destroy target artifact. We just kind of need to do this however makes the most sense, right? In my head, we're probably just going to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards and then make a treasure. I imagine casting this the turn before we go nuts, right? Just so we have the most options, we have an extra mana to deal with it, but it's also good removal if you need to kill a small guy or you need to pop an artifact. You really can't go wrong with Prismari Charm. And then the final card is Snap. Return target creature to its owner's hand, untap up to 2 lands. So I like Snap, and I guess I should have mentioned it for Frantic Search too, but cards that say like untap up to 2 lands, just as a value as it is, it's a free spell. Like in a vacuum, pay 2 mana, return target creature to its owner's hand, untap 2 lands, right? That pays for itself. But if we have like, like Urabrask, we have Stormkilled Artist, we have Goblin Electromancer, anything that makes our things cost 1 less, it's effectively ramp for us, which is really good. The deck is pretty red heavy with a lot of the rituals and stuff, so being able to tap blue sources is really nice. Aetherflux Reservoir for artifacts. Whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you cast this turn. Pay 50 life, deals 50 damage to target creature or player. This is very easy for us to make happen. If we're off Bria and we can't resolve Bria, at the end of the day, we are still Spellslinging and we still can make it work. Aetherflux Reservoir is an excellent way to make that work. Arcane Signet, just because it's good mana. Glamdring, I think, is super sick. So, equipped creature gets first strike and +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. Already good. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand with mana value less or equal to that damage without paying its mana cost. So let me explain this, right? The key word here is first strike. So we cast a bunch of spells, we do all this fun stuff, right? Bria's big. Bria is also now unblockable, right? So we swing in with our guys. Bria has First Strike, the only card in our deck that I think that has First Strike or can give First Strike. She or he, Otter. The Otter deals damage, right? And then we can cast an instant or sorcery without paying our mana cost, which is then going to trigger all of our prowess stuff for the rest of our guys, which is cool. Isochron Scepter. Enters the battlefield, you may exile an instant or sorcery card with CMC 2 or less. Pay 2, you may copy the exiled card. If you do, you copy it. That's pretty much it. You know Isochron Scepter. It's good. It triggers all of our Magecraft stuff. We just put a counter spell under here or something. Even just like, honestly, like an Opt or whatever. Anything, really any spell we put under here is not bad. That costs 2 or less. Just so we have it always on a stick. Lightning Greaves, we're going to put that on Bria, and we're probably not going to take it off. Like, unless like we need to equip Glamdring or whatever. Still good, right? We just need Bria to be protected. Mind Splice Apparatus, Flash. At the beginning of your upkeep, put an oil counter on Mind Splice Apparatus. Instant and sorcery cost 1 less for each oil counter on it. Very cool. It might be a little bit high for a cost reducer, but if we can play it late game, and depending on when we try to go for our big swing to kill everyone on the same turn, Mind Splice Apparatus might make our instants and sorceries cost like 3 less. You never know. We have Primal Amulet. Instants and sorceries cost 1 less. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, put a charge counter on it. If there are 4 more charge counters, flip it. Flips into a land, Primal Wellspring. Tap it for 1 mana of any color, and then when you basically cast an instant or sorcery, you copy it. Assuming you use mana from the land, which you most likely did. So we just get to copy a spell for free. It's a cost reducer. It's really good. I like it. Soul Ring is Soul Ring. It's Soul Ring. Swiftfoot Boots. I really like the art for the roller skates. I think it's funny. Yeah, we just gotta give Bria hexproof. That's pretty much that. Going into the few enchantments, we have Heuristic Study just so we can always have card draw, pretty much. So we can always go nuts and have exactly what we need so we can combo off. Because Spellslinging can be tricky if you don't have all the pieces. Shark Typhoon is modal. If we need to make a quick token, we can make a quick token. If we need to draw a card, we can draw a card for 2. But the idea is we pay for 6 mana whenever we cast a non-creature spell, make a big shark with flying and prowess. So, again, just another token generator. 1,000-Year Storm gives all of our cards Storm. So, having things be copied with Bria, or like prowess triggers, are very important, right? However, we do need to benefit from the effects, right? Because otherwise we'd just be running a bunch of 0 mana artifacts that don't do anything. We want to benefit from the effects we're getting, right? Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, copy it for each other instant and sorcery you cast this turn. You may choose new targets for it. So it's really nice. So late game, when we pay like 1 mana for an Opt or whatever, we're now like paying 1 mana to like draw 4 cards, like scry 1 4 times and then draw 4 cards. You know how it goes. It's just really good. And then the final enchantment we have is Wizard Class. I put Wizard Class in here because I didn't want to put Thought Vessel, just because Wizard Class gives us a lot more upside. So it's 1 mana, you have no max hand size. That's kind of why we want it, right? Just so we have no max hand size, because we do draw a lot of cards, and that could be potentially a thing where we don't want to discard, right? And then if we're bored, we can pay 3 and then draw 2 cards, which is also really good in a pinch. And then, whenever you draw a card, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. We do draw a lot of cards. We do funnel through the deck a lot, just so we can stay consistent, because fizzling is such an issue in Spellslinging. So, even when we have spells like Windfall, which, again, discard your hand, draw up like however many cards, could be nuts, right? Could be 7, you never know. But yeah, I just know max hand size and drawing 2 cards is very good just right there. And then if you want to pay 5 later, go for it. Going into the lands, I don't think we have any crazy lands. I put Ancient Tomb in the deck. It's not one I usually add, but being able to play Bria as soon as possible and just having the extra mana on a land is really nice. Considering we also have like Frantic Search and Snap that can untap the land. I like it. Cascade Bluffs is actually a pretty big deal in the deck. We do have a lot of things that produce red when we cast instants and sorceries, like Urabrask and Burgee and whatever, right? But we might have a ton of red and not any blue, so Cascade Bluffs is nice because we can use that red and filter it into double blue for later. Command Tower. Mystic Sanctuary is an island. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you can control 3 or more islands. Might enter tapped, guys, I'm not going to lie. And then when it enters the battlefield, you may put target instant or sorcery from your graveyard on top of your deck. It's good to hold on to later. It's good to just play right away as a land. Use it however you see fit. Odawara, the Soaring City. Discard Odawara, return target artifact, creature, or enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. It costs 1 less for each legendary creature. We don't have a ton of legendary creatures, I'll say. But just being able to bounce things on a land for cheap is not bad. Especially if it's like a problematic like stacks piece or whatever, because we don't have a lot of removal in this deck. We have like player removal. Our removal is like counter spells and like bouncing things. But other than that, something problematic, we got to kill a player. Reliquary Tower to give us no max hand size. Shivan Reef is a fine untapped duel. Sokazan is nice because making 2 by channeling it, we can make 2 1/1 guys that have prowess to kind of go nuts, right? It's a nice. Steam Vents, you know, just Shockland. Stormcarved Coast for a Vow land, check land. We have Thundering Falls as a I don't know what the murder lands. I don't know what to call this land cycle actually. The surveil lands, I guess, would be right. And the Battlefield Surveil one could be good in a pinch, might be not. It's a good turn 1. It's a good card, I think. And then the final land we really have is Training Center, just because it's going to enter untapped. Because assuming we're playing in a pot of 4, we have 3 opponents. It always enter untapped. It's an untapped duel. And then the final part for the final lands is 12 islands and then 11 mountains. I think it's like 35, 36 lands, not including the like flip lands, like Primal Amulet or anything. It's a good rate. We have a lot of cost reducers. We got a lot of things. We got a lot of draw, so we don't really think we should be worried about mana. But that's all I got for you guys. Thanks for watching. Get the cards you need from the link down below. It helps me out, helps the channel. And then like the video, comment what you want to see next, and then subscribe because it always makes my day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.